At the conclusion of this school year, Mr. MSJ, Marty McDonough, will retire after 46 years at the institution. Originally hired to teach mathematics, McDonough's role reaches far beyond the classroom. Currently serving on the administrative team as athletic director, teacher, mentor, and friend. Today, colleagues, students, and close confidants open up about his character and devotion to the Green Wave and what MSJ will be like without him.
I met Marty McDonough as a 6th or 7th grader. I had him in elementary school, then in high school, and then after he came back from his time in the service, I had the opportunity to work with him for many years.
Marty McDonough graduated from MSJ in 1964 before earning a bachelor's degree from Boston College. After college graduation, he served in the Vietnam War before returning to Rutland and marrying his beloved Mary Ann.
He was, and still is, the kind of person that you want with your children. You know, wholesome, gave a lot of time and energy to his classes, worked very hard. I first was involved with him as a teacher. He was a teacher, I was a teacher. I was the mathematics chair and he was a math teacher. So I got to observe his classes quite a bit in the beginning, and then later when I became principal, he was still in the classroom, an athletic director. So I got to observe him again. I think he's great.
Marty McDonough is the kind of guy that every school wants. I could go on and on about multiple stories of him coming down here at all hours of the night. I firmly believe there's not an hour in a 24-hour period that he hasn't come down and checked on the school, make sure everything's fine. He's one of the most generous people I've ever met. He's always thinking of other people before himself. He always thinks of the kids before himself. He's constantly encouraging them. He's at all of their sporting events, their concerts, their plays, their dances, their proms. He doesn't miss anything.
Marty has sort of been like a third grandfather to me ever since I showed up here. Marty's been an incredible role model. He's one of the most caring people I know. He seeks out opportunities to help other people, to do things for the greater good in ways that I don't think I'll ever be able to. He's just constantly looking for something to do to benefit this school and the people inside it.
The idea of him even retiring makes me feel very emotional because he's been such a good friend. I would 100% call him one of my best friends. There's no question about it.
I had Mr. McDonough as an algebra teacher back in the late 70s. Knowing that he's been in this institution for 50 years, including his own education, is just incredible. He's seen more than half of the boys that ever went to school here. He knows them all. You look at all these banners in the gymnasium, and he had an influence on 95% of the titles that you see here, including 13 state championship football teams.
When there was something that came up at the school at an odd hour, Marty was the person who was called, and he never hesitated to be there to help. He was the person who was involved in all aspects of the school, and principals would come and go, but Marty would be there to help show them the ropes. And so that's going to be a very difficult thing for the school to no longer have Marty there.
And I worked with Marty at MSJ 41 years ago for several years, and he hasn't changed a whole lot. You know, our hair color's a little different. He was as self-effacing and dedicated and compassionate and committed to the kids at MSJ then as he is now. Hasn't changed. And to dedicate your whole life to this wonderful school and to all the students now who have had their kids go to MSJ, and in some cases their grandchildren. I'm sure Marty's had grandchildren, as I have in my 42 years. So I think, you know, I think of Marty, I think about, you know, Marty was really into Coca-Cola, that is. He probably still is, but not as many. He used to drink about 8 or 10 Cokes a day. kept him going. And the guy was like the Energizer Bunny. You know, he would never stop. He was at work early before anybody else, and he was there late, tutoring kids in math after school, coaching as AD, evenings, weekends, total selfless commitment to a cause greater than himself.
Well, I've known Marty for a long time, going way back when he was the baseball coach at MSJ, and of course his son Charles and his daughters, and heck, I remember certainly back when the daughters were in elementary school, maybe the second or third grade, so we go back a long time, and he's just a terrific guy, and just I consider him a friend.
I can remember one game where it was a crucial game. It was close. I was coaching basketball, and he was the assistant. And it was the waning moments of the fourth quarter. It was a very close game, and we took a timeout. And I can remember standing up, and Marty was right next to me, and looking at that time, it was a packed house. And I simply said to Marty, as I hitched my belt, I says, "Coach," I says, "look at these people. They think I have a plan." And without hesitating, he looked at me, he says, "No, they don't." The two of us had to turn around, we were laughing so hard.
Marty coached alongside Jimmy Kelly before Dave Kinsman came in as head boys basketball coach. Dave acknowledges the pair's coaching styles were vastly different, but says Marty's influence was a calming presence.
Pretty laid back, I would say. I think it was a revelation because I'm exactly the opposite. I'm very high-strung and emotional and pretty much say what I think when I think it. And I think he was, before me was Jimmy Kelly, who was more like Marty. And I think it was a little culture shock at first, but it was good to have him to kind of grab me and get me a little more under control.
As a coach, Marty and Dave spent endless hours at the gym and were often accompanied by their sons, Charles and Matt.
You know, Marty would take us down because Marty had to go to the gym or go somewhere, probably go get a six-pack of Coke, I don't know. But he would take us to the gym on a Sunday and we'd shoot hoops for a couple hours, and he'd be on the free throw line shooting with his eyes closed and make 20 in a row, and we never know how he could do that. But there's just like stuff like that. That was just, it was enjoyable as kids growing up in that environment.
I go back to when I was in school and I had him as a baseball and basketball coach. And over the years, he constantly was looking for a free throw shooting contest with anyone. Didn't matter whether it was a student, a teacher, or whoever, for a soda. That was the big thing.
Always humble and never seeking recognition, Marty was surprised in 2010 when the gymnasium was named in his honor. With family, friends, students, faculty, staff, and former colleagues in attendance, the green lettering naming the Martin McDonough Gymnasium was unveiled.
It was a decision that we made with Paulo Zancanaro, who was the principal at the time, and I believe he'd been here for 40 years at that point in time, and we didn't know how much longer he was going to be here, and we could not think of anyone who was more deserving. And if you think about the amount of hours that he has spent in that gym should be named after no one but him.
You play on the team and you know that he's in the stands at almost every game he can go to, and you kind of have a respect for him and his son for what they've done here and the legacy they left behind. And it's just fun to be able to play on the same court as his name is on.
As athletic director, Marty goes above and beyond scheduling games and keeping track of equipment.
Freshman year, I sprained both my ankles in soccer. And every year since then, for every game we've had, Mr. McDonough has come down and taped both my ankles and made time to do that, as well as taping about 5 other ankles for the girls on the team.
He was a doer. He would get things done. He was very humble. He didn't want to take credit for these things.
Marty more than once has actually dropped off schedules and rosters to my house. So he's driven right into the driveway and things like that. So he has gone really beyond.
In the classroom, students say Mr. McDonough takes extra time with anyone struggling with the curriculum.
If someone's struggling, he just goes the extra mile to help them out, and he'll do whatever it takes to make sure everyone's up to speed.
Likes to help, and if there's ever extra time, he likes to make us laugh, whether that be card tricks or just telling random stories from his past.
I just have so much admiration for the guy because it was never about fame or fortune. Because if you work at MSJ, it's about neither, but it's about doing good, doing it well. In Marty's case, doing the right thing when no one is looking. You know, watching the guy pick up litter, clean up after somebody else's mess, to do all the little things without the accolades. Can't think of anybody who deserves more accolades than Marty McDonough. I love the guy.
Without Marty, there's big shoes to fill. Obviously, you know, he's not only the experience of 46 years and such, but just for the fact that, you know, his relationships that he's had over the years with other schools and other athletic directors, the kids there. So it's large shoes to fill.
The example that Marty has set with his dedication to the school and his enthusiasm for the school, I can see it has trickled over into these newer faculty members who have really taken ownership. And so he can't be replaced by one person, but we have great faculty and staff, and I think they're rising to the occasion to fill that spot in the MSJ community.
In May, Marty was inducted into the Vermont Principal Association's Hall of Fame for contributions he's made during his tenure at MSJ.
I think of the positive impact he had on people, and that's what will carry people forward. I know it has with me anyways. He's been so helpful to so many people, and very quietly he goes about his business, but he does it with dignity, knowledge, and a great deal of humility.
When students return to class this fall, the staple many have come to expect to see at morning chapel will no longer be a daily fixture at the institution, although many suspect he won't be too far away.
Anybody who knows Marty knows that he can't sit still for longer than 5 minutes. So I cannot imagine that he is gone forever. I think he's already alluded to the fact that he'd like to be on our sub list. I think about even how if there's an issue within the building, like the fire department, for example, they don't call me, they call Marty. And I can't really see any of that changing because he sort of is Mr. MSJ.